Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is February the 10th, 2017, and I'm really pumped today because we have guests from all over the world here. We've got Jacob Mellon of Bitcoin Mellon YouTube channel. He's a new on the scene and fresh young face. I'm excited. We've got Jerry of Classic Ether. He's doing a lot of Classic Ether stuff out there. He's got a blog, has a Twitter account, the Classic Ether Twitter account. I really like what this guy stands for, and his links will be below. And of course, we have Abraham Cambridge of the Sun Exchange in South Africa. And I forgot to say that Jerry is in Asia. Jerry, how you doing?
Doing good.
Awesome. Abe, how you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. Yeah, it's summertime here. It's great.
Awesome. Okay, Jacob Mellon, how are you?
Oh, I'm great.
Now tell us, I want to start this on a positive note. There's a lot of people ask me about real life uses of Bitcoin. When is it used? Tell your story that you were telling me before we went on air.
Yeah, so about probably a couple months ago, honestly, but this is the first time I've told anyone, outside of my work about it, really, or the people I communicate with. So somebody came into work with a, I accept Bitcoin shirt. I work at a casino restaurant. So I walk up to him while they're in line. I say, hey, look, I accept Bitcoin too. And he ends up requesting my section. And by the end of it, he tips me out in, $5 worth of Bitcoin, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Hang on a second. I had to close the door. That is awesome. It's a guy. So a guy is tipping you in Bitcoin in real life. That's just I hadn't really heard about something like that. Maybe
and obviously I went and talked to everybody at my work about it because I always get I'm sure you guys get this from people too. Sometimes that really don't know that much about Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency. And it's fake money, whatever. But now I have people at work asking to buy Bitcoin off me. Buying $100 or $200 worth.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. But don't sell. I would just hold on to it for now. That's awesome that you are earning Bitcoin. You're earning Bitcoin at work. I mean, that's cool. Yeah. I tell people to find ways to earn Bitcoin. All right. So now onto the news of the day. Everyone out there by now saw that what is it? Yesterday, the price of Bitcoin. We were flying toward 1,100, and then all of a sudden it drops below 1,000. And that's due to what's going on in China, that we blow things out of proportion in China. There's been some exchanges sort of being shut down, threatened to shut down, not working as well because of the Chinese government. We will get to that, but we're speaking on a China note. I want to talk about Ethereum Classic real fast here, and because as everyone knows on this show, we talk about at least one altcoin every week on the show, and this week it's going to be Ethereum Classic. So Jer has some great blog post about something that happened. I guess it was toward the beginning of the week, or maybe it was even last week, but it was news dealing with China and Ethereum Classic. So Jer, take it away.
Yeah. So there was this kind of interesting ICO that happened this week in Ethereum Classic, and it's kind of shrouded in mystery because it's coming from China, and there's often these language barriers that make it difficult for us to understand exactly what's going on. So with this ICO, it's running on the Ethereum Classic blockchain, and what the initial coin offering is intending to fund is a Bitcoin mining operation in China. And there's been a lot of controversy surrounding it because we don't know exactly what the terms are of the ICO due to the language barrier. We've been told that Chandler Guo is behind it. Chandler Guo is a well-known mining entrepreneur. He was one of the first major proponents of Ethereum Classic. But what's kind of strange is that although there are these reports from press outlets like CryptoCoin News that Chandler is the one that is organizing this thing, he's not actually come out and overtly said that he's connected to it. So there's no mention of him on the ICO site. He's not tweeting about it. In fact, he's kind of disappeared from Twitter. recently. But reports are that he's behind it, and also reports are that these Bitcoin mining rigs will be signaling Bitcoin Unlimited, which is very controversial.
Yeah, that is a very controversial aspect of it. It seems to me that people throw around that guy's name way too much in the space. It seems like I hear so much about him, but yet there seems to, he's put on a pedestal. Do you feel the same way, or?
Well, I mean, for people who are proponents of Ethereum Classic, he's a figure of a certain respect because he came out in favor of it so early, and he really made some sacrifices in that process because he was a big Ethereum proponent. He was friends with Vitalik Buterin. So for him to cut those ties, it showed that he had a great degree of confidence in Ethereum Classic. So for us, you know, people who are interested in Ethereum Classic and want to see the values attached with it, you know, succeed and flourish, we would like to see him, you know, have a positive reputation. But now that he appears to be associated with Bitcoin Unlimited, it's a little bit like now Ethereum Classic is caught in the crossfire in this debate over the future trajectory of Bitcoin, just because Chandler Guo reportedly is associating himself with the unlimited side of the debate.
Yeah, this is just another, just adds to the Bitcoin Unlimited versus SegWit drama. And speaking of that, Abraham, do you have any thoughts on that drama, on the Bitcoin Unlimited segregated witness drama in Bitcoin, or do you really think about that much?
That's not an area we're focusing on. The area we're excited about is actually the implementation of Rootstock onto the Bitcoin blockchain, so that smart contracts can start running on it. That's stuff that's getting us excited and looking forward to that. So we just wish that project would speed up a bit.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I haven't heard much about that. Do you know what's going on with that?
Well, yeah, they've basically just taken the singularity language from the Ethereum. They've basically allowed it to implement it on the Bitcoin blockchain. So any smart contract which is designed for Ethereum could be used to run on the Bitcoin blockchain, which is great. I mean, that's exactly what we would like to be able to implement. So we're building our smart contracts on Ethereum. But we don't need to use Ethereum. We can just move it over to Bitcoin and use exactly the same code.
This is good stuff. Now, I want before the video started, and everyone has seen Abraham on here before. He obviously is at the Sun Exchange, and he has an update on the situation over there. Quickly, Abraham, tell everyone what the Sun Exchange is and what is going on. What's the news over there?
Okay, so the Sun Exchange is a crowd selling website where we allow people to buy solar panels that are in Africa and then earn income from them. So we get approached by businesses that want solar arrays on the roofs of their factories and on their community buildings. We then sell those solar panels through our website, and people from anywhere in the world can buy them. The solar panels get installed, and we facilitate the revenue collection from those solar panels back to the owners where they are in the world. So this week we've just financed a car tire recycling factory in South Africa. It's an $85,000 solar plant. It's about 50 kilowatts, and the owners of that solar plant are all over the world. I mean, in one day we had people from Qatar, Russia, Hong Kong, United States, Australia buying solar panels in this project. Now we distribute the revenue from those solar panels in Bitcoin. It's the only way people can get revenue out of those solar plants is through Bitcoin. And so that solar project we've just financed is a really great example, because the business itself, they're doing car tire recycling. It's a sustainable industry. They're very energy intensive, and energy is getting more and more expensive across Africa. So the lack of finance for solar plants is slowing down economic growth. So what we've done is link up Western money and Western appetites for ethical investments, and linked it up to supplying electricity to Africa. And we've just closed a really great example of that.
Well, everyone really thought it was innovative when I remember when I originally met you back in South Africa, and now the people who have someone emailed me and really liked what you had to say the last time. So I'm glad things are progressing with that. It's a very it's a very interesting
Thank you. I mean, I know you're Mr. Buy and Hold. I know that you say it every time on your show, but I mean, I'm the school of thought. It's like, well, how long are you going to buy and hold for? I mean, it's just theoretical wealth if you're just holding it. So at some point, you're going to have to do something with it. So our drive is to get people to actually use some of their Bitcoin profits and actually put it to work, put it to good use. So with the most recent project, we actually raised 49 Bitcoin in total from around the world to finance that solar plant, along with local South African Rand contributions. So that was our first major project. And so it gives us hope that actually people are going to start using Bitcoin for doing good and not just sitting on it.
Yes, well, there are many people who watch this who remind me, like, I want to do something with my Bitcoin still, Adam. Talk about people who do things with their Bitcoin. So here we've got a very good guy that has has an innovative thing that's going on in Africa. And I wanted to point out again, you talk about how anyone from anywhere in the world can send you Bitcoin, and that's the glory of Bitcoin. And Africa is something that we only hear about in the news. It's almost as mysterious as Chandler Gal. People talk about it in theory, but they don't really actually go to Africa to see what's going on. I've obviously been there. You are living there. So hopefully we're going to have an Africa show with Laurie and Gamaroff every week or every other week on here. That's something I wanted to, I alluded to. I wanted to remind everyone out there again. That's the news. Jerry is out in Asia. I think I mentioned that. And he actually he talks about some of the philosophy behind Bitcoin, and I really like. Again, I've alluded to this before. He stands for some cool stuff, and we might be doing some. We will do soon enough a future show, kind of talking about what Bitcoin stands for, some philosophical things of cryptocurrency, differences between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic on that level. And of course, we got a young guy like Jacob out here. I love how all these people are starting their new channels out there. So we might have, I'm going to do my best to promote all the new channels out there. So I want to stay in the BitcoinMeister direction. Those are some of the things I'm going to be making some videos on in the future. And we're going to keep on interviewing big dudes in the cryptocurrency space. So I thought I'd say that right now. That's some news of the day. So going back to China and what happened. Now we're going to talk about this. Jacob, what is your feeling of what just happened with the Bitcoin price?
I think comparatively to some of the stuff that's happened in China before, it's really not. I mean, it's not a big news story to me. I feel like, I kind of think this underlines the importance of the volatility and how. So even it was only took like what did it take, like a 10% drop?
Yeah, I mean,
that day
it was like $100. I mean, that scares people. It scares people.
Yeah. I mean, and I saw somebody on Reddit post like, oh, Bitcoin went from $10.40 to $10.40 to $9.60, and if you look at it that way, it's not as it's not as scary, I guess. But I just think there's a lot of there's a floor that's growing in Bitcoin, and it's getting stronger and stronger. And I think it's different from what people usually see in assets because it's a really decentralized, and there's a lot of unnaturally strong hands. So places like Venezuela, or places with hyperinflation, or places that lack bank accounts, where a lot of people, if they take a 50% loss in the price of their Bitcoin, versus the Bolivar, that might be a pretty good year for you.
Yeah, a good, very, very good points here. I also, obviously, I've made a video about how this is blown out of proportion. I will link to it below, most likely, that video, or you guys can look it up. Jerry, what are some of your thoughts on this situation that's with the Bitcoin price?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it as being anything that should be of concern. I mean, if Bitcoin needs to retrace a bit and consolidate like it did back in June and July, I mean, that's just something that it needs to do, after a massive run-up like we've seen. I mean, if a run-up becomes too aggressive, right, then it's going to raise the price higher than is sustainable, right, long term. And so, of course, there's going to be a correction and a consolidation. So if that's what we're going through now, it shouldn't be of concern to anyone as being abnormal. Like I said, we saw something very similar back in June. Or, you know, maybe it will continue that aggressive upward push. I think that we have some very significant events coming up soon in March, right? Didn't the Winklevoss twins submit their ETF for the New York Stock Exchange? Isn't that coming up, that decision?
Yes, it is in March. It is. That's a very good point.
So that could definitely have an impact on the Bitcoin price. Like if the decision is that the ETF is turned down, I mean, you should expect that there should be some retracing, right, if that happens. So for now, people are probably on the fence, and if there's some consolidation that needs to take place below 1,000, I don't think that's really, should be of too much concern to people.
Now, Jerry, I've actually got a question about the Winklevoss ETF. I don't think that's priced in right now. Like, I don't think Bitcoin is at a certain level because people are expecting it to be approved. But what I do think is if it doesn't get approved, there's going to be irrational panic, just like with this China thing. The fundamentals of Bitcoin don't change just because they get rejected, let's say. I think we're going to see this again if they get rejected. I don't want them to get rejected, but if they do, we're going to see like a 50-point drop or a 100-point drop, and I think it's totally irrational and based on nothing, just to weed out the weak hands. What do you think about that?
Well, I think buy and hold, as you say, is a good mantra. I think that Bitcoin shows the most stability of any of these cryptocurrencies, and it's the basis for all of the cryptocurrencies. So if you're using it as a store of value and you have the majority of your portfolio in Bitcoin, that's a sane, conservative measure in order to conserve your capital, your store of value. So I'm all for that. And I think that with this ETF, some people online seem to be experts in this, and they seem to have arguments that it's likely to be passed or it's likely to fail. I don't really know what the situation is. If there's some irrational kind of panic, if it's denied, I don't see how it would be more severe than how it's played out in the past. I mean, wasn't this submitted before by the Winklevoss twins, and there was some issue with it, so it got rejected and had to be rewritten?
Yeah, or it was constantly delayed, something like that. There's been a lot of anticipation and then disappointment when another delay occurs for some reason or another.
So, I mean, I guess eventually they'll figure out some way for an ETF to be passed. So if you need to be patient until it happens, I mean, I think one of the best things that Bitcoin offers is this reliable store of value. So, being patient with it, I don't think that's such a bad attitude to take, to approach to this uncertainty,
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say that I am looking in the chat right now, and people can ask some questions in there. We'll try to get them. I can't promise anything, but one guy did ask, when do you think the next Bitcoin jump in price will be? And Jerry, I don't want to put words in your mouth. When do you think that might be?
Well, I think that because we just saw one, because we just saw such an aggressive run up, and now we're seeing these retraces, right? There was a big one just a little while back, and now there's a smaller one that's pretty significant. I think that these kinds of retracing seem to indicate that maybe because there's such an aggressive run up that it needs to cool down a bit and consolidate. So I would guess that it's being stalled, the next big run up, but the markets are pretty irrational, so it's difficult for me to know when breakouts are going to occur.
Okay, very, very good. Abraham, I'm going to ask you about what do you think about this China panic that happened, but also if you have a prediction on when the next Bitcoin run-up is going to start up.
So the China aspect, I mean, you can see that the level of support that it fell to, the most recent correction or at least sort of response to the regulations in China, was much higher than it was in January. So you can see there's a continued push upwards, and it's obviously not just China related. I mean, I was watching the Kaiser report this week, and they had the CEO of Unocoin from India, and their user base is growing by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands a month. And obviously India's population is 1.25 billion people, and is also having huge problems with their currency. So I don't necessarily think that China is the whole story. Countries like Venezuela obviously huge issues, but India is I think going to be the driving force here, and obviously they do clock onto technology, and they embrace it. I mean, the Indian IT scene is enormous, so I would expect that to continue to drive forwards. In addition, I think it's going to take a financial disaster. The moment there's the world economy re-enters recession, that's going to be what takes Bitcoin back into the spotlight. At the moment, the economies are ticking along, but on with band-aids on. The European markets are very uncertain. The United States still trying to wait out and see how your new president gets on. It's not sustainable as things are. We all know that, and Bitcoin was the antidote to a broken financial system. And all it's going to take is for that band-aid to fall off, and people can see the wound that hasn't healed, and then people realize that Bitcoin is actually the new system, and that's what's going to drive the price. Excellent. And I think that will happen this year. I think this year is going to be that you'll see the house of cards eventually falling. Okay, Jacob, when do you think this next Bitcoin price jump might be?
If the ETF does get approved, I don't think anybody is betting on, or I don't think a lot of people are betting that it's going to get approved. But if it does, I think there's a lot of upside potential there. And if it gets denied, I think it'll, maybe go down 5-8% tops. But I think there's huge upside potential with the ETF if it gets approved, just because it's more of a black swan event that's not anticipated. Other than that, any kind of, I think Europe destabilizing too is a big factor in that. So.
Yeah, very good points here. I like what I'm hearing. And again, in the chat section, if anyone's got any questions, we don't usually take questions. Send something out there. But we're moving right along. Actually, we're getting close to the final thoughts here. Is it, Jacob? Do you have anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about so far? Anything pressing? Any big issues or anything like that?
Big issues. No, not really anything too much. It's been a bit of a slow week, really. There's a lot of Coinbase was saying they've been having exponential growth over so many months. So, and that's been happening in a lot of places. So,
hey, that's good. More Americans getting their hands on Bitcoin. That's nothing.
In my own personal life, I've had a lot of like new interests recently. I was wearing just a Bitcoin shirt yesterday, and I was meeting with my friends, and this one kid I had just met, he was like, "Oh, is that a Bitcoin shirt?" And I ended up selling him just like $1 worth.
Hey, that's I mean, little stories like that, it makes a difference. I mean, every day people slowly find out more about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and that's why we're out here just spreading the word. Jerry, you've probably got something to say here. You've got any other story you want to talk about? Anything going on in Ethereum Classic you wanted to bring up?
Sure. I mean, I can talk about something that I think dovetails, which is that, we're discussing the ETFs, and of course, Barry Silbert submitted an Bitcoin investment trust to the New York Stock Exchange for filing. And that's why you're not seeing him online. Barry Silbert often comments on cryptocurrency. I think his Twitter account is very informative. And he is not showing up on Twitter these days because his lawyers have him on lockdown. There's actually legal complications to his talking about things Bitcoin related while they're still deciding whether or not the Bitcoin Investment Trust will be accepted, right? So the same day that the trust was filed with the New York Stock Exchange, a new trust was announced called the Ethereum Investment Trust. So this might be of interest to people who are into Barry Silbert's Bitcoin investments, because his belief is that Ethereum Classic could be a reliable store of value in the same way that Bitcoin has established itself. So that's what the trust would be dedicated to, is deriving value from the Ethereum Classic blockchain. But there was some controversy surrounding this product because Ethereum Investment Trust, as a brand, does not make it explicitly clear that it's talking about Ethereum Classic and not the ETH token. So there were a lot of people who are supporters of the Ethereum Foundation who were crying foul and actually asking the Ethereum Foundation to protect the trademark that they have on the name and brand of Ethereum, and somehow criticize or find fault with, or I don't think they have much in the way of a legal claim against it, but to target Barry Silbert's Ethereum Investment Trust. This to me is a subject that I'm very interested in. I want to hear the argument in favor of Barry Silbert. I want to hear the argument in favor of Ethereum Classic being recognized as a legitimate manifestation of Ethereum technology. So I'm not seeing a lot of debates on that side of it. I think it's a really interesting debate. I am supportive of the Ethereum Investment Trust. And so that's what I would like to bring up as my thought is, how can we reflect upon this a little more deeply and think back at what happened during the hard fork, the contentious hard fork that gave rise to Ethereum Classic.
Wow, this is a huge topic, and I am so glad you actually brought this up to inform the people, to give people a little bit of insight on what is going on with Barry Silbert, why people haven't heard from him. People did hear about this ETF. I actually did a video about it, but we haven't heard much about it since. So this is something to keep our eyes on, something that you and I probably will talk about in our next video too, because Jerry is going to be on again pretty soon to just talk. We're going to have an Ethereum Classic show and philosophy behind cryptocurrency, as I alluded to a lot. I don't know, Abraham, do you have any thoughts on what he just said, or I'm
maybe I'm a little naive, but I'm a little bit confused about what the Barry Silbert situation is. Maybe if you want to recap and give a little bit of background on it, because it's not something that I've been following.
Okay, yeah, quickly give a little bit of so the people out there know about it, because it's exciting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Barry Silbert is the founder of a company called Digital Currency Group, and they are responsible for Grayscale Investments, which is is responsible for the Bitcoin Investment Trust and now the Ethereum Investment Trust. So Barry Silbert is investing in 80+ companies in the crypto space, extremely influential, and his first pick of an altcoin for Digital Currency Group to support was Ethereum Classic. So he's got an argument for why Ethereum Classic is very special. Part of it has to do with the leaderlessness of Ethereum Classic, which is that, Bitcoin lost its leader when Satoshi left the building, right? And that's given it a very special kind of status in terms of its decentralization, because you can't target the top, right? And Satoshi made sure that you wouldn't be able to. So with Ethereum Classic, we potentially have the same kind of model, because when Vitalik Buterin and the Ethereum Foundation abandoned the immutable chain, then it was left without having that celebrity at the top that could call the shots, or that people could attempt to manipulate in order to do things that are controversial or irresponsible with Ethereum. So that is essentially what makes Ethereum Classic special, and perhaps the core developers will make it even more special by contributing towards improvement protocols that help make it competitive and give it a lot of properties that are useful to people in the cryptocurrency space. But what's interesting about it on this program is that Ethereum Classic has a lot of properties that it shares with Bitcoin, leaderlessness being one among quite a few. So there's actually been a lot of support from people like Samson Mao in China of Ethereum Classic. So it's not restricted to simply one group of investors. There's been a lot of resonating with the kind of characteristics or properties that make Ethereum Classic's fundamentals particularly interesting.
Well, I will say this. This is very interesting news about Ethereum Classic, and I'm glad we're getting it out there to people, because when you read like a CoinDesk article, you don't get it. It's just not. So I mean, I don't. The Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency media out there, and this is for another video, I guess, is kind of lacking, and you need people to flesh it out like Jerry. And again, we will link to his blog below where you'll hear about subjects like this. I think this is a good tie into the last question. Somebody asked this on the chat. I think it's good, a good question. So here goes. I have a question. Do any of us think that Bitcoin market share could decrease due to new technologies coming out like Dash with its instant transactions? So basically this person is saying right now Bitcoin makes up like 85% of all the cryptocurrency market out there. It is just dominant. Do any of us think that Bitcoin's market share is going to drop soon because of some altcoins doing innovative things? Are people going to start to move to altcoins a little bit more than previously, or is the Bitcoin market share going to keep on growing? This has been in the news a little bit too. Abraham, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, if a superior technology comes along, then it would make Bitcoin obsolete. People will switch. But if Bitcoin can move and evolve and absorb some of that additional functionality or features as time goes on, then it'll retain its place. It's not a fixed entity. I mean, yeah, look at old Nokia phones. Like Nokia absolutely dominated the mobile phone market. But then there's a quantum leap in mobiles when the iPhone came out. No one ever saw Nokia not being the leader, and now they're insignificant. I don't think the same could happen in Bitcoin, because it can evolve and it can change, and it can take the best. It can select or cherry pick the best features that it wants to extract from other altcoins and implement them if the community thinks they are worth implementing. I mean, I've been interested to hear what Jerry's take is on what I was discussing earlier about Rootstock and getting Bitcoin to run smart contracts that were coded for Ethereum. I'd be interested to see what Jerry's thoughts are on that.
Yeah, actually, Jerry, share your thoughts on that, and also answer the question about, do you see Bitcoin's market share going down? Both. Take it away, Jerry.
Sure, yeah. I mean, Barry Silbert is an investor in Rootstock. So I think it's a very interesting avenue for attempting to build out the smart contracts platforms. I think, I'm a fan of decentralization. So if we can have smart contracts running on multiple blockchains, I'm all for that. And I should also say, I should hasten to add that I don't have a strong degree of confidence that Ethereum Classic is going to outpace Bitcoin in terms of being the superior investment, right? So I think there's a lot of good arguments, and I get along very well ideologically with the Bitcoin maximalists, that you should put your crypto portfolio to a great extent into Bitcoin. And then if you feel you have some profits that you're willing to take risks with, have a small percentage, if you want to go there in investing in altcoins that you've really done the research on. So what interests me about Ethereum Classic is the kind of interesting nature of the backstory and the origin story. But I really do view that store of value that Bitcoin presents as being extremely valuable to people. So if Rootstock can help in implementing smart contracts on Bitcoin, I'm all for it for sure.
Awesome, awesome. Jacob, what is your what do you think about is Bitcoin going to take up more market share here, or are there going to be some altcoins that are people going to start investing in altcoins a little bit more?
I think it's going to be really difficult for any kind of altcoin to just match the pace that Bitcoin's moving at. You know, there's going to be a lot of things, a lot of altcoins that have great potential uses, and they are going to do things that Bitcoin won't do. And I think in the future, those will have, you know, maybe the market share will spread out in the future, but I think within the next, you know, so many years, it's going to stay majority Bitcoin.
All right. And we're going to conclude with Abraham here. He actually, I didn't ask you, do you have anything else to add? Any other story, any other news you wanted to add, Abraham?
Well, it's just in the same theme as the initial story. At Christmas time, I went to stay in a hotel for Christmas and New Year. I was there for 10 days. I racked up quite a bill. And then at the end, I just noticed a sign on the wall saying, "We accept Bitcoin." And I was like, "Do you accept Bitcoin?" And they was like, "Yeah, sure." And I checked out, and I think it was like the 6th of January, so just before the price crash. So I checked out a $1,100 Bitcoin price and walked away without having to spend any of my money. It was great. So that was a good thing. And I then actually having a really long conversation with the owners who were persuaded to accept Bitcoin from some of their staff, but they knew very little about it. So I actually sat down with them for about half an hour to an hour, actually just ran them through the whole thing and about what the Sun Exchange is doing by allowing people to invest Bitcoin into solar energy. And now we're going to do a solar project for that hotel to solar power that thing. And they're going to send out a mail shot to all of their mailing lists saying, "We're going solar. You can do this via Bitcoin and we'll pay you out in Bitcoin." So it's just a great sort of merge of all the different things that I'm interested in at once. Is a very, very cool thing.
That is actually a great story to end on there. I think that's a happy note on this crazy week. We end it. So I thank all of my guests for being on the show today. We had a guy from Asia, from Africa, from the United States. That's what we bring to you on this channel, just all sorts of different perspectives. I'm Adam Meister, the BitcoinMeister, the Disrupt Meister. Remember to subscribe to this channel. Please like this video, share this video, tweet it out, spread the word. This Week in Bitcoin will be back next Friday with a whole new panel of guests. It won't be this early in the morning, most likely, but you never know. I'm going to be in Portugal by then. So again, thank you, everyone. I'm going to be in the chat after this with you guys in the chat for a little while. For now, take care. Bye-bye, everyone. See ya.